Now that we have completed the discussion on behaviorism, we are now moving to generativism. That's a response to behaviorism. And under generativism, we will be discussing nativism and LAD, which is language acquisition device. Nativism is based on nativist theories, which assert that much of the capacity for language learning in human is innate. That means that you are born with this ability to produce or learn language. It is a genetic makeup of human species and is nearly independent of any particular experience which may occur after birth. Now, this is completely in contrast to behaviorist theory, which lays down the emphasis on the understanding of the external factors, the stimulus response factor in developing learning of a language. According to innateness, humans are born with this capacity to acquire language. They are there inside their mind, and it has nothing to do with the external experiences that one goes through. So it is there independently, without having any connection to the experience which a person goes through or participates in after birth. So that means you are born with this faculty of language acquisition device. Now, these innateness hypotheses gained support from Eric Lindbergh also. He's also a nativist. And he proposed that language is a species specific. That is specific to specific species. It's a behavior, and that certain modes of perception, categorizing abilities, and other language-related mechanisms are biologically determined. So, language is a species-specific. For example, humans have their own specific languages. Animals have their own way of communicating. And then this kind of behavior is based on certain methods of understanding or developing views and ideas, and categorizing abilities and competencies, and other language-related mechanisms which are biologically determined. Followed by Eric, Chomsky also claimed the existence of innate properties of language to explain the child's mastery of a native language in such a short time, despite the highly abstract nature of the rules of language. Now, Chomsky believes that the way a child masters a language cannot be possible unless and until a child has the abstract nature of the rules of language there in his or her mind. This view has been negated or has not been, is quite opposite to behaviorism, who says that a child or a person develops learning through stimulus response behavior, producing a certain act, getting a response, and then developing. So language learning is considered as a behavior rather having anything to do with innateness. The innate knowledge, according to Chomsky, was embodied in metaphorical little black box, which he considers as LAD, language acquisition device. It is metaphorical little black box. There is no such part of the brain where you find something written on it saying that this is language acquisition device. It's only a black box considered referred to as having a mechanism where you find the abstract rules of grammar which are internalized and used to produce the linguistic acts. McNeill in 1966 also supported the appropriateness of language acquisition device, justifying creativity in child's language. So Eric and McNeill also support Chomsky's view, thinking that a child, when he or she produces language, cannot be possible without having language acquisition device, since it enables a child to be creative in terms of the utterances he or she produces, in terms of the sounds or words that he or she produces. The creativity justifies the presence of language acquisition device. According to McNeill, the lad consists of 4 innate linguistic properties. Number 1, the ability to distinguish speech sounds from other sounds in the environment. So lad has the ability to distinguish speech sounds, the words, from other random sounds which are there in the environment. So a child can assess what's the random sound and what are the words that are spoken to him. Second is the ability to organize linguistic data into various classes that can later be refined. Now the linguistic data that is there in the lad can be refined by categorizing them, by organizing them into different classes in terms of all those linguistic units that we had already discussed: morphology, syntax, phonology, phonetics, semantics. You can classify the linguistic data according to those linguistic units. Third is the knowledge that only a certain kind of linguistic system is possible and that other kinds are not. Now, in terms of the understanding of grammatical rules, a child or a person can determine that subject-verb order is possible maybe in one language and can have a different order in the different language. It might not be possible in another language. The fourth is the ability to engage in constant evaluation of the developing linguistic system so as to construct the simplest possible system out of the available linguistic input. So LAD encourages the constant evaluation of developing linguistic system. Certain rules are there, but LAD enables the modification or the development of that linguistic system by engaging a person into a constant evaluation and construction of the knowledge. So how LAD works? Number one, it holds the fundamental rules for language. According to this aspect, Chomsky proposed that every child, though born with the LAD, and holds the fundamental rules for language. In other words, children are born with an understanding of the rules of language. They simply need to acquire the vocabulary. Second is that it advocates that language is fundamentally similar across all of humanity. Now, Chomsky offered a number of pieces of evidence to support this theory. He posed that language is fundamentally similar across all of humanity. For instance, every language has something that is like a noun and a verb, and every language has the ability to make things positive or negative. It enables a child not to commit error that is expected or that one expects. Chomsky also discovered that when children are learning to speak, they don't make error that you would expect. For instance, children seem to understand that all sentences should have the structure, subject, verb, object, even before they are able to speak in full sentences. Now, from this experiment, Chomsky also noted that younger children, well before reaching language fluency, would notice if adults would then speak an ungrammatical sentence. He also found that children attempt to apply grammatical rules to words for which their language makes an exception. For instance, the English rules of grammar, a child might pluralize a word fish to fishes. To conclude, nativist theories argue that humans are pre-programmed with the innate ability to develop language, and Noam Chomsky, the main theorist associated with the native perspective, developed the idea of LAD, which is language acquisition device.